Hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be brewing a Christmas ale in the all-grain method. This is going to be a video that goes from the crush to consumption. But before we get started, let's go over a couple things. Now, in my opinion, there are three keys to making award-winning homebrew. The first is sanitation. Recipe formulation, the next important thing when making an award-winning beer. Last thing that's also very important is a temperature-controlled fermentation. So, with that being said, let's get on to crushing the grain. This is my least favorite part of the brew day, the crush. There's our grain, as you can see. We've got 15 pounds in there. That should give us a nice 1065 beer. I don't know why I haven't motorized this thing yet. Let's get crushing. Just want to show you this real quick. My arm is throbbing, and we got this crushed. So, let's add it to our mash tun and set the timer to 60 minutes. Now, to save propane, I like to preheat my strike water on my stove. What we're doing here is we're going to dump this freaking water in here, and we're preheating this cooler, and this is going to maintain our mash temps better than if we were just dump everything in at once. So I heated that up to about 175 degrees. We'll seal it up, and we're going to look to get to about 167 before we dump our grains in. Now, personally, I like to crush my grains outside, and I like to dump them in my mash tun outside as well. A lot of dust and flour is kicked up when you're messing around with your grains, and there can be some nasties on those particles that are floating around your house if you choose to do that stuff inside, and you definitely don't want those by your fermenter. Ready to move this inside. We nailed our mash temps at 153, and I'm going to do one small water addition, which is some calcium carbonate or chalk. This is going to act as a buffer against those black malts that we used in here. We're nice and mixed up. Smells delicious. Alright, we're going to let this sit for about 55 minutes, and then we'll do our sparge. So before we can start our sparge, we've got to do something called the Vorlauf. So what this means is we're running off the liquid real slow out here, you know, a quart or a half gallon at a time, and then we're going to dump it back in the top. And the idea is to use the grain bed that's in here to filter out any particles that I'm getting out of here. I've only taken out about a gallon so far, and this is running pretty clear already, so that's a good sign. After this is perfectly clear, we'll start running off into the boil kettle, and we will use our sparge water to start fly sparging on the top. We're rinsing the sugars out. While I was doing a saccharification rest, I was heating up the sparge water on my stove. Again, it's quick and it saves propane. So what I'm doing now is a very manual or ghetto fly sparge, however you want to classify it. And I've got my brew kettle here, and I'm simply running off with 170-degree water, rinsing the top of the grain bed at the same rate that it's draining off. So you basically get this flush of water that's rinsing the grain bed, getting all the sugars out, and getting them out of the cooler. And that's going to be dumped back into the boil kettle, and we'll start our boil. This is going to be about a 20-minute process, so I'll go ahead and save you the trouble of watching this whole thing. Well, as you can see, we're boiling here. We had a good runoff, a good sparge. We collected 8 gallons of a pre-boil gravity of 1053, perfect for what we're looking for. We're looking to end around 6 gallons at 1065. Alright, we've been boiling for about 30 minutes. We're going to go ahead and throw our hops in. This is a ounce of Magnum. It's a very clean bittering hop. It's not going to add any flavor necessarily, and that's really what we want out of a Christmas ale. We just want some bittering to balance out some of the sweetness of the malt. Alright, we did a 60-minute boil. Well, 60 minutes with the hops. And we've got the wort chiller going right now, and that's my temperature gauge. And within about 4 minutes we can get below 140 degrees, and that, I guess, is key to stop hop utilization. Now, the last shot we have here is cooling with a submersible pump. I hooked my wort chiller up to a submersible pump. It's plugged into the bucket, and it's pumping ice water. Those are frozen gallons of water. pumping ice water into our brew kettle. It's been about 30 minutes since that last clip, and I still have that pump going. It's pumping in cool water. We're down to about 68 degrees. Ideally, you want to get down a couple degrees cooler than you plan on fermenting at. I'm going to ferment at 68, so I'm just going to run this off, collect it in my carboy, nice and sterile or sanitized with the Star San. I'm going to throw up my chest freezer downstairs to cool it down a couple more degrees, and I'm going to pitch my yeast. Alright, with the wort chiller and the submersible pump, I was able to get this down to 65 degrees, which is perfect. So what I'm going to do now, I've got my yeast slurry, and I'm going to pitch my yeast. I'm going to aerate immediately after. So, spray that down, make sure there's no bugs there, and flame it, because that's how I roll. Got our yeast slurry, we're going to pitch 300 milliliters. I added some wort to this to kind of get it going. I don't know if I had enough time to get going, but it sure didn't hurt anything. Ideally, you might want to use like an oxygen stone, oxygen pump, but you know, unless you're doing a huge beer like a barley wine or imperial stout, they're not always needed. Don't get me wrong, they don't hurt, but this has yet to fail me. Alright, we threw the carboy in the chest freezer, and my controller is giving a constant reading of 65 degrees right now. I'm not going to allow this beer to get over 68 because I really like the ester profile below 60, at 68 or a little bit below. There's the chest freezer, and there is our beer. Nice Christmas ale. Alright, we'll come back and check on it in a few weeks. Alright, so our beer is fully attenuated. It went from a 1068 to about a 1018, 1019. This is the kind of attenuation I expect out of this malty English ale yeast that I was using. This is about 12 days after the brew day. This beer was actually done fermenting in about 8 days, but I wanted to give it a chance to fully finish up in that chest freezer. And I also did a little bit of a cold crash to get some of the haze out of the beer. So yeah, all these bottles have been sanitized with Star San, the hose, the bottling bucket here. I've already added my priming sugar to my bottling bucket, and that's what's going to give us some carbonation in each of these bottles. The beer tastes really nice right now. I'll get into it in the next clip, and in the next clip the beer will be fully carbonated, and I'll give you an accurate assessment of what I think of the recipe. Well, it's been 2 weeks since we bottled the Christmas ale. As you can see, a little Christmas ale. So let's pop it open and see how she tastes. Yeah, so like I said, it's been in the bottle for about 2 weeks. This is usually enough time for it to carbonate, and as you can see, we got some head on this, so looks like it's plenty carbonated for us to get a accurate assessment on it. We've got kind of a dark amber color. Nice head. That's really good. I'm getting a little bit of cinnamon in the front and some malt, kind of a secondary malt sweetness in the aroma. That's what I'm talking about. Initially, there's like a malt sweetness up front, kind of like a breadiness, which is probably coming from either the grain or the malty English yeast we used. There's also a roasted character because we used some black patent in this, and on the finish, the black patent kind of balances the spice and the cinnamon and the nutmeg and what else we used, allspice. That's a really nice beer. This is exactly what I was shooting for, and it's really what you would expect when you are drinking Christmas ale. So, all in all, this is a very successful beer, and I hope my videos helped you out here. You know, leave me a comment if you have any questions or any advice, because I'm always up for making better beer. Cheers, guys.